What up? What up? What up? What's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Bad Podcast. Brad and Dawain. Brad, man, what we talking about today, brother?
Yeah, first and foremost, I got a new surrounding. I'm in the new pad. Give me some loving on that. We're gonna talk about a comeback story today. So today's quote is brought to you by Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite all-time motivational speakers. Getting knocked down in life is a given. Everybody's gonna get knocked down. Getting up and moving forward is a choice. That's all I got, baby. And we're gonna talk about
Mm,
choices and comebacks.
choices, baby.
Let's
Choices. I
go.
love it. Always a great quote. Zig Ziglar is one of the goats. So let's get it.
Hey, good job, guys. Good job. Mental battles. Mental battles.
Hey, man. Eat some man for life, baby. What it look like, what it be like, what it do. Brad and Dwayne back in here, another edition of the Bad Podcast, man. And we have a special guest. We're going to get into all of that, man. But before we do, man, we want to let you know that we are currently live inside of the Eager to Run group. Eager to Run group, Eager to Run group club is a free run group club on Facebook. So make sure, man, if you are a runner, walker, if you have legs, or if not, if you walk on your hands, whatever, join the Eager to Run group. It is a free run club. Make sure you just search it on Facebook, and you get live podcasts like this, as well as a whole lot more. There's run classes, all kind of things in there, meetup events, race info. All of that is located inside of the Eager to Run club. So make sure you guys find it on Facebook, like it, join it, get in there. All right. So today we have a special guest, B, and I'm gonna pass it to you to pass it to him so we can talk about why we have him here and just get into our topic.
Yeah, man, this is called the give and go. So he's going to give it to me, and I'm gonna give it to Brian. But this is a guy that has taken his life and transformed his life through running, and taken some bad habits and really revamped his life with one of the hobbies that we love, running. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Zick, my man Zick, and he's gonna introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian.
Well, my name is Brian Zickefoose. I'm 42 years old and married for the last 10 years, and I got a little 6-year-old girl. Got a cleaning company that we started. We just celebrated 10 years with that.
Hey,
That was
congrats.
a big part of um, just my comeback story as well. And another piece of what God's blessed me with. Um, I've been running my whole entire life since like seventh grade. Not by choice at first, because I was wanting to be a baseball player like my dad, and I just didn't have it. So I was cut from seventh and eighth grade baseball teams. I ran track on just for the heck of it, ended up being decent at it. Ran through high school and college, and you know, and then I took pretty much a 10-year hiatus, um, where I didn't make a lot of good decisions. Where in high school I was kind of a goof off. In college I had this roller coaster of success and failure my whole life, and drugs and alcohol always played a part in that roller coaster. Whenever I was on top of the world, I was sober, doing good, and doing what I was supposed to do, um, chasing after God. And then when I fail, I always feel hard, and then I always have to climb back up. And so after college, I didn't really run any races at all for 10 straight years. Um, and, I got married in 2014, and 6 months before that, at that point, I was smoking a pack a day. I had quit running. I was just barely running, if at all. Um, Pretty much full blown alcoholic. I drank every night to get drunk, and amongst other things, it was, not to give too much detail, carried away, but let's just say I wasn't living right. And when I was going to get married, I knew I had to change. I knew I had to make a change. And so the first thing that really started my comeback in 2014 is, had a friend of mine that was dying from a lung pulmonary disorder. And I said, well, I was going to quit smoking and run a marathon, Charlotte Marathon, in 6 months, which I did. And then that just started the journey from there. And here we are almost 10 years later.
That's amazing. And, I want everybody that's listening to this, and Brian didn't mention this, but he's done a handful of 100-milers. He was an alternate on the world championship team. He's done some 50-mile. He's done some significant races since his comeback and since his relapse as well. And I think that's just quite an astonishing story to find yourself in the dumps, but be able to pull yourself out. Because Dawain, I mean, we know that it's easy to find ourselves, deep into the abyss, and it's hard to fight and claw out of those holes sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I have to go back because part of your story reminds me of a part of my story. I got cut from the baseball team too, and decided to run track.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. When you said that, I was like, "Oh, this is my guy." But then when he got into the 100 running and all that, I was like, "You lost me again." So anyway,
well, it surprised me as well, and it surprised a lot of my high school, college teammates, because I was a mid-distance runner and I couldn't stand running past 10 miles, and I refused to do that in high school and college. Like my other teammates were doing these 15-mile runs on the weekends. I was like, I run the mile. I'm not doing that. Like, and they were like, I can't believe you got into marathons. And then, one thing led to the next. Once I went through marathons, and after the first few years of marathons, my goal was to qualify for Boston, which I did that within a year. And it's amazing how the body works. Like I trashed my body for so long, but it just like somehow rejuvenated itself. And my lungs came back, everything came back. And I really don't know how that happened other than the body's resilient. And
Resilient for sure.
And so, I ran to Boston in 2019. And then after I did that and went as far as I could, thought I could go in the marathon, I was like, well, that's when, my struggles with alcoholism after 2.5 years of sobriety kind of crept back on me. Like I relapsed shortly after my daughter was born in 2017, and it was like a roller coaster. I'd go 90 days sober and still running pretty good in that time, but it was just like I was spiritually dead. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so what started my ultra running, it was like after Boston, it was like I thought it was supposed to be so much more than it was. I had it built up in my mind, like, oh, this is what I've worked for so many years. And then, when you think you're going for this goal and you set your mind on that for so long and you finally hit it and it wasn't as gratifying as you thought it was going to be. Well, that's how it was for me in Boston. So I was like, I got to make a change and reestablish back my faith with God. And I just heard in my spirit, I was like, why don't you do something like you did your first marathon all over again? Do something that scares you. Mm-hmm. And what scared me was running 50 miles or more. And so then I signed up for JFK 50 mile in that November 2019. And that was my first ultra. I had no intent of doing another ultra after that. It was just like, once I did it and I did better than I expected, I was like, man, what else is possible? And what the body can do. Because, then I fell in love with the long distances.
Yeah, I like what you talk about fear, because that we talk about fear almost every podcast. And when you talk about 50 miles, it's the unknown, right? It's always the unknown. Yeah. Dawain's training for a physique show right now. It's the unknown. Isn't that where the true gratification of life comes from? Is chasing that unknown and not being prepared. Now, this was your first 50 miler, right? This JFK 50. First 50 miler, you have no idea what it's going to entail. The strenuous struggle and training that is entailed with this program, and I just love that. What do you got, Dawain? I know you're chopping a bit.
Yeah, man. No. I mean, he said something that I know our clients are going to resonate with, man. Just the fact that how the body responds, and it takes me back to before E2M, all the cookies, all the cakes, all the pies. Anytime I saw it, I ate it. I mean, it was like I would run through a whole Oreo, like the whole thing. How people take a tray I take the whole thing. Like all of that, man. And I did that for so many years. But then when I changed my eating habits, when I started doing E2M, the body, man, the body snapped back, and the body, like, like you said, you just amazed how resilient your body is,
Yeah.
because even back then, before then, like before I was married, man, I was, smoking cigarettes and all the
Oh yeah.
things, and just not really caring and thinking about the body, man, until I started. And just amazing how it just turns around and it transitions. And then here's the funny part that I find out, once you get it in a good momentum, it'll, like people get nervous when they first join our program. They do the first 8 weeks, and then they have a cupcake and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to relapse." Like, no,
Yeah.
you got a little leeway, and
Yeah.
Jesse talked about having like room in your tub. You got a little bit more room in your tub to add a little extra water, man. So I just love that part of your journey, is just taking your body to that next level. And then seeing how it recovers, man. I mean, you talk about just you didn't get into details, but all the things that you did prior to that had nothing to do with running. That was actually again, like it works against it, but being able to train and come back, man, I think that's a beautiful thing that we want to make sure we highlight for our clients, man, because that's the very same thing they're experiencing, whether they're finishing up their 8 weeks or they're been in for a while, man. You just it's amazing what this body we've been blessed with is able to do.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
The body's like a rubber band, man. You expand that rubber band and you let it go. What's it going to do? It's always going to go back. But if you keep on expanding that, it's amazing how far you can expand that rubber band, right? And that's what we are. We are essentially a rubber band, man. And I think that's a song, Rubber Band.
It is.
Anyway,
a couple different versions.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how far we can expand if we allow ourselves that expansion, right? So, I did an Ironman a year and a half ago. And Dawain knows the story. A lot of the people that have listened to this podcast know the story. When I signed up, I had no idea what the training was. I had no idea. I didn't even know what an Ironman was. I didn't know you had to get in the water for 2.5 miles. I didn't know you had to ride a bike for 112 miles and to do a full. I didn't know that. And at the time when I signed up, so many people had doubted me and told me, "Hey, nah, you shouldn't, you couldn't, you wouldn't, you won't."
And start with a half first.
Well, everybody, I don't know how many people told me start with a half first. Start with the half first.
Told me that too.
Again, chase the things that you fear, because once you put that carrot out in front of you, you only have one choice. I'm all in. But if you go for that half, man, like you can always have in the back of your mind, what if I went for that full and I succeeded? And that's, I mean, you're living, walking proof of, I've never done a 100-miler. I've never done a 50-miler. And now you are living proof of, hey, hard work pays off, and comeback stories are truly sensational.
Yeah, they are. Like, I guess you hear it all the time. Like, I know a lot of people probably doubted me, but I kind of thrive off that, and then the doubt that you have in yourself. I was like, well, a goal's not worth attaining if it wasn't hard to get it. That's with anything in life. Yep. And, if you didn't have to fight for it, if it was just handed to you, then it's not much of a goal at the end of the day. So I want to set the bar pretty high for myself, not to prove anybody else what I can do, just to prove it to myself. And because you can get into that comparison game all day long. There's always going to be somebody better, lost weight faster than you did, or whatever the goal may be in business, athletics. So I just only compare myself to myself and keep it at that. That's why that's very hard with social media nowadays, because you're always comparing somebody. You're always going to find somebody better, faster, stronger. So you just always look back to how far you've gone and set that next bar a little higher. And so that's what I like doing. And because once you reach your goals and you're like, well, now that you thought you've arrived, well, then people usually give up. They go back to gaining all the weight back. I've seen this happen a lot because my background is in physical education and health. That's what my degree was. So I kind of relate to a lot of y'all.
1, 2, 3.
'Cause
All three of us.
I've seen that. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
all three of us, same
you
background, same
you know what
education.
it's like to help people on a weight loss journey, or for me, coaching somebody, and they reach that plateau and they are struggling to get any better or lose any more weight or get any faster with me. It's just like, well, you got to find some kind of motivation that's going to keep you going. You know, so for me, it's just setting that next race, having my calendar. You know, I don't look too far ahead and I don't look too far behind. I just try to stay in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what works for me. Like, stay in the moment and just keep grinding one day at a time.
Brian got all the he got all the E2M cliff notes.
Man.
I don't even know anything about
Yeah.
I don't know much about E2M to be honest, but
you all like they say at church, you stepping all on our toes right now. Like,
you know, I think that's a part of your journey. That's the running, life, fitness. Like they're all essentially the same. And I just saw this quote the other day. There's no amount of worry that can change the future. There's no amount of regret that can change the past. And live here in the present. That's where true joy can be found, or something along those lines. And that's exactly what you did say. But one of the things that I grabbed out of what you just said is, just appreciate what season of life you're in. I've been talking about this big time lately. What season of life are you in? Are you where you want to be? Are you not where you want to be? There's a reason you're where you are today. And from whatever season of life you're in, you have to learn to extract lessons from wherever you're at. If you're plateaued, you have to learn a lesson. Like, why am I plateauing? Why can't I get faster? Why can't I lose weight? Like, that's all an internal battle, and life is an internal battle. Every day our mind tells us, hey, don't wake up, hit the snooze button when it hits 3 a.m. Don't go to the gym, eat the donut, micro decisions day after day after day, a minute after minute after minute. But just extracting lessons from life and rewarding yourself too. Like, if you're training for a 50 miler, you're not going to be able to run 50 miles on day one. But if you are just beginning in mile one is in your training, if it's 1 mile, reward yourself. Hey man, pat on the back. I'm not saying go eat a sleeve of Oreos, like my man Dawain, but go and enjoy yourself. We don't pride ourselves enough for doing the hard things. Like, people are doing the E2M fitness program. That's a proud moment. If you can go through a circuit and you can get through an entire circuit, man, be proud. If you can go for a 5K, 10K, half marathon, be proud, and then extract lessons along the way. And that's how you keep on, so to speak.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, hit a lot of good points, man. Even because this episode is actually going to drop. I think it's Christmas Day, actually. Yeah. So, but we're just completing a round, and the reason why, like I said, we're smiling so big is because this is the end of an 8-week cycle, and so a lot of people are reaching this pinnacle, and they have a choice. They have a choice to continue to go forward, set new goals and keep moving, or go back to where they used to be, or send us a message saying they plateau, which we love that so much. No, I was kidding. But no, so here's the thing, and I always all my friends know that's a trigger word for me, man, because you can only plateau, man, when you stop making goals. Like, that is the only time you plateau, man. Is you stop making goals, you stop setting a new challenge for yourself. That is when you're stagnant. That's what that means, man. It means you're not moving up or down. You're staying the same, and I just refuse to stay the same, man. And that's big that you talked about that, and the fact that we call it the Emerald City, and the forest. You know, like you go through the forest and then you see the Emerald City, and when you get to the Emerald City, you find out there's more forest. Because we're always striving and pushing towards a new thing, man. And I think that's what happens to people that you see gain a weight back, or or like post, especially when they do something like major, like a big race or something, like post race depression, all that. And we even talked about that on here too.
Yep.
When you don't have something, you don't have the next thing, because you spend so much time working and training for this one thing, and then you don't have the next thing to work towards, or to occupy yourself, and you kind of feel like, well, I'm not worth it, or I'm not getting anything done, man. So a lot of great points, brother. I'm gonna pass it back to you, man, because you dropping nuggets, man. Anything else you want to say, man, before we get ready? We got another little segment at the end before we transition to that. I'm gonna let you say that, and Brad, you drop the bomb, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, for me, once I ran the 50 mile, after that, I was just like, well, what else is possible? Like, because I did something that did scare me. And I was like, well, it was like a year later where I was like, I wonder if I can qualify for a world championship at almost 40 years old. Because, most of the guys are going to be in their earlier 30s, mid 30s on the team. And so I set a bar really high that I was going to run 100 kilometers of 62 miles, and I had to run 7 minutes a mile to be able to qualify. And that was and in 2020, I failed at that. I was on pace for that. And talking about learning from your failures, like, you could call it a failure, but I ended up, it was a COVID year. There was not a lot of races, but I went 7:51. So I was like 20 minutes off what I was supposed to do. And so even though I kind of failed in my mind, I was like, well, I still held that pace for 42 of the 62. So now I just got to look at what I need to change differently. Like, okay, I got to look at my training different. This was my first attempt. Just because I didn't quite make it, I was still one of the fastest runners in North America that year. And then about a year later, I did the same exact race, and then I qualified. So it took a whole another year of training, looking at all the little details, doing all the little things, like rolling out every night, using the massage gun, doing the Epsom salt baths, like trying to clean up my diet. For me, it was like staying sober, staying spiritually connected, and really just not running for myself anymore, running for a higher purpose, And, it wasn't just me I was running for anymore. There was other people looking up to me, and I had no idea how many people were really looking up to me in that way. And there's probably the same for you. When you're doing something and you set a goal and you start chasing it down, even though you had those failures along the way, people are watching you to see how you're going to respond. And so I just decided, I was going to go for it. And even if I failed again, I was going to try again. But I made it. But then after that, I was like, well, I completed that. I think the next thing is I'm going to complete a 100-miler just to say I did it. And then, I surprised myself by doing a whole lot better than I thought I'd ever do. And end up winning the first 100-miler I ever entered. And I was like, well, now, and that was 3 years ago. Now I've done 4 different 100-mile races. And, how crazy the body responds. The first 100-miler I did, I could barely walk for 2 straight weeks. Well, this last April, I was fine 2 weeks later. I was back running like normal. And so it was like your body just gets so much stronger over time. Like, when you're lifting weights, how you can lift one weight a hard session and it would take you a week or 2 to recover. Now all of a sudden you're recovering in 2-3 days. It was like you can't set limits on yourself because the body's going to respond. It's going to get stronger and stronger those ligaments, tendons, and all those muscles, like they just start working together. And so then the mental strength comes. Like I used to watch a lot of David Goggins and Chad Wright. I don't know if you know Chad Wright. They're
Love
both,
Chad Wright, man.
yeah, I love Chad Wright. He's like, they're both former Navy SEALs and ultra runners. And so I gain a lot of inspiration from them. It's like, don't give pain a voice is what Chad Wright always says. And doing that extra mile and, just not limiting yourself. Don't voice the negativity. You can say it inside your head, but as soon as you put it outside your mouth, then it's over. Like in a race, when it gets really hard for me, usually that last 10 miles of a 100-miler is excruciating. And a lot of people quit at mile 85. If you ever go look at race results,
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of people dropping out between 85 and 90 miles. It's like, well, that's when I get excited because I know the end's coming. But it's just a mindset.
Yeah.
So you got to change your mindset towards pain and growth and, staying in that moment. You can't look at mile 90 when you're at mile 91. You got to be thinking and run the mile you're in. And, for weight loss, since y'all are weight loss kind of focused, I'd say don't look at week 8 if you're doing an 8-week cycle. Look at the day you're in, not even the week you're in. Look at the day you're in, because if you're focusing on Saturday when it's Monday and you're already thinking about how you're going to have your cheat meal or whatever, you done messed up.
Right.
And so I just say stay in that moment and just keep pushing yourself. And, you stack those bricks and making those deposits. Like one of my coaches used to say, like a bank account. You don't grow a bank account overnight. You put little deposits in overnight. And then when it's time to withdraw, you take that big withdrawal out and you're ready to go. That's how I prepare for races and life and my business and cleaning business I got and everything in life. It's just one day at a time, man.
Killed it, man.
Crushed it. Hey, I do want to say one thing before you land this plane, Dawain. They did an experiment a handful of years about mental toughness, and when that doubt starts to creep in your mind, you have to push it out somehow, because your brain literally cannot have two opposing thoughts. Like if your mind is telling your body to stop, if you convince your and if you get into that mind and say, I don't accept, take one more step, I don't accept, take another, and all of a sudden that repetition eliminates all that doubt. It eliminates all that, and it establishes courage. So you just have to really power through and win that mental battle. Tell yourself, I can until you do.
Yes, sir. Amazing.
Thinking is big.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Amazing. All right, Brian. So we're going to transition, man. We got a really quick little part at the end of our show. This is called a Do You Know or Did You Know moment. And we're going to get you to put a fact out there, man, about yourself that somebody may or may not know. Just a moment. It could be anything. Brad, he talks about all kind of stuff. High school stuff, and we both from small towns and all that. Like whatever the fact you want it to be. But I'm gonna play this short clip. It's really short, so you got time to think about it.
Okay.
It's really short though, so I just want to make sure I warn you. But I'm gonna play this clip, and we're gonna ask you this week's "Did you know or do you know?" question. Do you know? All right, it's over. So tell us, Brian, what is a good do you know or did you know fact about yourself?
I was trying to think about this all day. I was like, man, what do people know about me I don't know? Because my wife knows everything.
Yeah. She don't count.
No, she don't count. Well, since we're talking about fitness and the mental side of it, what brought up to me was like something I didn't tell anybody. It was about 2021 after I ran my second 100-miler. At this point in my life, I'm like 8 years into the comeback. I was like, I had done everything that I said I was going to set out to do. And I was secretly thinking, man, I'm like 40 years old now. Like, I think I'm just going to hang it up. And my coach, without even knowing I was thinking that, Mark Bottenhorn, he was like, "You got to keep on training and you got to keep on going for your daughter." And I was like, "She's 6 years old," but he has a little girl about the same age, and he was like, "You got to keep showing people what's possible, and by doing hard things." And so I really was considering hanging it up and just quitting. And if I would have done that, I would have missed out on the last, like, almost 3 years now of everything that I've been blessed with and experienced. And so that internal battle I had was just all me. I didn't tell nobody about it. I mean, it's not like some crazy thing or.
I love it, man. No,
But that's just what
it
I was
goes right
going
along
through
with what we've
mentally.
been talking about the whole time. Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect, man. Because nobody knows those conversations that we have in our head. You know, me and Brad talk about ours all the time on here, but you know, it's because we got a podcast, we got a place to do it. But but no, that's a really good did you know point, and we appreciate that, man. So first, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule, man, coming on the show. We're gonna close it up, but we want you to stay on the line, so don't hang up when I hit the close button. But shout out to all the folks in the Eager to Run Club, man, watching live, man, and those watching the replay. And shout out to those who are gonna be watching on YouTube when it comes out on Monday. You know, before you unwrap the gifts and stuff, you can watch this episode and tell your friends about this podcast, man. We love y'all, man. Going into the new year, super excited about what we're gonna bring and what we're gonna talk about. So till next time, you guys, we out of here.